partnerships is experimentation, and you're going to lose more than you win, but hopefully the wins outweigh the losses.
This resulted in a huge business for us. We went from 0 to a few hundred million in a couple years.
Hello again, and welcome back to Partnerships Unlocked, where we dive into the growth strategies that are driving modern partner-led growth. And each episode, we're going to cut through the noise with hard-earned lessons from some of the best leaders in the game today, leading today's partner revenue channels. It's going to be fast, it's going to be tactical, and you're going to leave with some actionable insights to go and build from. So I'm incredibly excited to have who I believe is one of the best partner leaders out there today, and partner operators, Rob Moyer from Gong.
Hey, Greg, great to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I am too. I'm very excited. All of our conversations I feel like I learned something from all of our conversations, so I know everybody else will. Let's dive right in. Would love to just get a little background on kind of your program at Gong, maybe just a quick rundown on your history, your career in partnerships. And then we'll dive into one big win and lessons learned, one big loss and lessons learned, and maybe some things you wish you knew earlier in your partnerships career.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been pretty fortunate. I'm one of the few people that I think I've been in the scaling mechanisms, the heights of the Microsoft world, scaled a business at Cynics from 100 million to over a billion. But I love the fact that I got to end my career in startups, and Gong in particular. I started a few years ago. We had basically zero. We were a little late to the game in partnerships, I think a little driven by COVID. But, we had to do a straight on build, 0 to where we are today, and, it's been quite fun and a great run here at Gong.
It certainly has, and I feel like you guys are just getting started with how much partnerships is going to really drive for that business.
Absolutely. And, the big thing for me is, always be learning. It's like as we get into some of these conversations, on your questions, it's like, I thought about this the other day, and I get asked quite a bit, what are the parallels between scale companies and startups? And it's all foundational. It's the same things. It's really about maniacal focus. So I look forward to the conversation.
I love the fact that every time we talk, you take unconventional approaches to conventional problems. You kind of don't assume that there's any right way to solve the problem, and in each scenario is treated as its own kind of challenge and problem to solve. And I think that that's very interesting because I think a lot of folks get stuck in just the same old way of doing things, and with how fast the market is evolving, both the technology market in general, but also partnerships as an ecosystem. I think you have to take unconventional thinking into this. So let's jump right in. What is one huge win you have? Why do you believe it worked out? And what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to be at Cynics just as I left Microsoft and cloud started. It was or in the early days it was BPOS. So we literally built a marketplace off of a back of a napkin. And no one had a path to get there. And this gets back to that conventional thinking. So when I started, it was like, I was listening to all the talking heads at the time and everything. And at the end of the day, I went and created a roundtable and asked the partners, what would make you use our marketplace? What would make you buy Office 365? And it was amazing. I got all this research, all the studies done, and it came down to one thing. Um, Let us buy in the quickest amount of time possible, like less clicks to get to the information we knew. Because once we knew we wanted to buy, we didn't want to negotiate. We didn't want to do anything. We wanted to get it done and move on. And it was such a simple concept about listening to your customers, understanding what you're solving for them, and then bringing your strategy together. This resulted in a huge business for us. We went from 0 to a few hundred million in a couple years. And what we kept doing is we kept iterating on simplicity. And the lesson for everyone there is you can listen to everybody in the world, but go talk to your customers, figure out what they're trying to solve, and then build it.
You know what's funny? That was one of the lessons that came out in my conversation with Anthony was, you have to keep the customer value and the customer interest and the customer needs kind of at the forefront as the North Star, because if that piece is there, everything else is easier. And if that piece is not there, then you're really just kind of like fighting an uphill battle to try to make something out of maybe nothing.
Absolutely, and I think the other thing that comes from it is, the learnings you'll have along the way by creating that dialogue with my partners. I remember at the time, we ended up figuring out there's this 1 or 2 vendors back in the day that were migration vendors, and we had 30% attach rates to doing business with them, and it wasn't a result of our strategy. Our strategy was to go find big vendors to get them on the platform, and our customers were saying, "Here's a problem we're solving. We're trying to buy this, but we're trying to migrate from on-prem to in the cloud. Bring some migration vendors." Those migration vendors were small but mighty, but they contributed a ton to our top line and our profitability. So, once again, it was stick to the core, listen to your customers, solve their problems, and good things will happen.
Yeah, that's not surprising, but that is great to hear. Honestly, just being reiterated. All right, let's jump into something that really didn't work out. And maybe you had high hopes for it. Maybe placed a big bet that just didn't pan out. Obviously, partnerships is experimentation, and you're gonna probably lose more than you win, but hopefully the wins outweigh the losses. So what would be the one thing that would come up there?
I would say this is more of a theme than a one thing. I've done it a couple times wrong, and so I'm much smarter now for it. But a couple times in initiatives, once here at Gong, once at Cynics, was just didn't bring enough people along early. When you're in partnerships, you're trying to juggle many things. You're trying to hit your number. You're trying to get partners aligned. You're trying to break glass, if you will, in new spaces. And sometimes that journey means you need help from within. And, there's this sometimes we get this little arrogance. I've been known to do that where I was going, I know I'm right, I'm going. And then I end up doing a U-turn to bring people along. And once you bring people along, you go faster. And I wish in some regards I would be better at this point, but I constantly do it. But the good lesson is that it's a tried and true thing. Like, bring people along for the ride. Because when you're in partnerships, we talk a lot about it. I've seen some of the stuff you've written, a lot of things everybody writes, and it really comes down to one thing. It's a little bit more complex than a very direct sale. And it's really a team effort. It's really about a company effort, and that you have to bring people along so they understand where they, fit in success. So a couple times that's happened to me, slowed me down. Fortunately, it only cost me time, and I was able to recover both times to, unbelievable results.
That's great. That's great. So really, that kind of internal alignment, that internal selling, kind of help everybody else within the business understand kind of where they fit in to partnerships, but also where partnerships fits in for them and their success and their goals, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That's great. Um, and then maybe what are two or three things that you wish you knew earlier in your partnerships career that would have been great unlocks for you had you not had to learn them later or harder?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is less is more. When you're early in your career trying to make a name for yourself, or you're just trying to put up numbers, and you think like everything is very much like the more I do, the better the outcomes, my career will go up. And what I learned over time is, how do you prioritize your time and focus on the things that matter? And that less is more is really important, because results are ultimately what matter, and big results get you where you wanna go. So, when you have 10 things on your list, don't think of it as, "I'm gonna execute on 7 out of the 10." It's like, of those 10 things, what are the 3 things I can do and just crush, and then just execute and have maniacal focus. I wish I would have learned this earlier, because time and time again, it's always a thing. Constantly be evaluating where you're spending your time to focus on your best return. The second thing I would say, um, that has really been a benefit of, being one of the older people in our channel is this whole generational you can learn from anyone, and I wish I would have known that earlier in my career, but, my favorite story here is, my daughter is in tech, and she's a brilliant person. And I know back in the day, she would just, like, simplify things. She was great at Excel, she was great at just simplifying her approach, and I was like, "Wow, she knows more about this than me," and I'm a former Microsoft person. I was a little slightly offended, but I was thinking like, "Wow, I need to take this approach to work." And so I genuinely pivoted my approach on how I managed and learned from all all generations. And I think it's the tip I have for everybody is don't overgeneralize. For younger employees, don't overthink the older generation. And for the older generation, don't overthink the younger generation. Smart people and intelligent people add value, and it's the people that have that ability to absorb and learn from anyone. Those are the special people that drive exceptional results.
And I think that's why you're one of the best, because you're always learning. You're just always looking for nuggets, never assuming that you know everything or that somebody else does or somebody else doesn't. Yeah, I think it's an interesting balancing act. Being a partner leader is just like kind of like being a founder. So on the one hand, you have to have this almost uh delusional belief in what you're doing because no one else around you early on either believes in it or, maybe understands what you're working on. So you do need to push and you do need to sell the dream and the vision and you have to kind of like really get people bought in and excited about the vision of what you're building. But at the same time, you also have to walk the line of not getting, keeping that humility, not getting too cocky and thinking that you know everything. So you miss the forest for the trees at times.
100%. I have a saying that I've used for many years. The most exceptional people I've seen are somewhat crazy. And so there's 2 things. There's crazy good and crazy bad. Align yourself with crazy good because good things happen. I mean, you have to be crazy to get things that just haven't happened before you. But there's that crazy bad where you're just like, man, I'm aligned with those principles or morals. I got to get out of here. But there's 2 types of crazies in the world. But I think what I lean on is it gets back to that what we said earlier, that lateral thinking, that ability to look at your situation and go, "Is this the right path, or do I have to, like, make a better version of it?" And I think exceptional performers tend to do that. They take what's there, take the best of it, and iterate on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think that makes a ton of sense. Awesome. Well, Rob, you have shared, as usual, some very valuable nuggets of wisdom. So appreciate you joining us on the new pod and excited to see people's response to it when we let it out.
Well, I look forward to all the success, that you're having. I think we can finally announce that Gong is now official partner of EULER, so let's do it. Let's go crush our numbers.
We are excited to take this to the next level for you. So it's gonna be an exciting year for both of us, I think. But always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for jumping on and joining us.